We were waiting on the president to give his heartfelt address on immigration. Here's what we know so far. What exactly we thought was going to happen basically did. So if we take a look at the speech, basically what we kind of thought was going to happen, about 4.3 million people will actually get unauthorized immigrants will actually now be a little bit safer, feel a little bit better, but that still leaves about 6 million people out in the cold. That is going to be about 1.5 million, which are already protected under the DACA Act. But this is where things get going. Is Obama a Democrat? Did he do enough? Is he protecting enough? He has been called, of course, the deportation in chief. So what are we going to do there? Are we going to talk more about this? Is this going to change anybody's mind, or is this going to make people on the left even more angry? Of course, the 4.3 million people that are now feeling a bit more safe tonight, well, they're going to give about 2.87 billion in new payroll tax revenue. So there's another shiny reason to do it. The speech had a lot of platitudes, a lot of positive, open-minded left-wing thinking. It sounded good, but on paper, is it much better? So let's head to the panel. Tom, you had some strong feelings while we were watching that just before the show started. Do you think Obama has done anything tonight, and what do you think is going to happen after the fallout?
He did the bare minimum that he could do, and it came off more Republican than Democratic. And because I refuse to call a Democrat because they're the Democratic Party. And even though they don't act like it, they are. And he's a moderate Republican, and yet again he proved it. And they're probably going to impeach him.
Are you being facetious?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. They're gonna drive off that impeachment clip. I'm not being. I've watched as much right-wing stuff as I watch. I like to think myself the expert of that. They're going to impeach him because on Monday, I counted. I was going to do a clip for the show, but for Tuesday we never got to because our show died. Rush Limbaugh said impeachable offense about 5 separate times. They're going to impeach him. They're going to demand it because of this.
Before we jump down to the minutia of that, before Sean gives his take, I just want to read you some quotes here from the speech. My fellow Americans, we are and always will be a nation of immigrants. He continued on saying, our history and the facts show that immigrants are a net plus for our economy and society. Meanwhile, don't let a disagreement over a single issue be a deal breaker on every issue. Obviously trying to perhaps quell a lot of those fears and maybe hopefully win some public opinion tonight. Of course, not a lot of people may have saw this, and we'll talk about that in a second too. But before we do, Sean, give me your take on what you've seen from this speech while we were sitting here waiting, as well as what do you think he should do and what hasn't he done, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, in true TYT community fashion, I actually didn't watch the speech. I just listened to Dan narrate it before the show. But I actually totally disagree with Tom. This is more than the president, in my opinion, has the authority to do. Like, the president is supposed to faithfully execute the laws as they are written. He has some leeway in not in prioritization and not enforcing laws that he believes to be unconstitutional. But nobody can argue that that deportation laws or deporting people who came here illegally or without paperwork or whatever is not constitutional. So this is actually a big move from the president. He didn't legalize anybody. He just gave them, like, he basically said, I'm not going to throw you out until we solve the problem. Like, that's overall a good thing. I'm just not sure it's legal, and I don't know what this means for actual immigration reform, because now the Republicans are going to be like, this, he already gave them amnesty when we wanted to do a real reform, and it's going to be a disaster. And as far as impeachment goes, I don't think they'll impeach the president, but there's a great saying that impeachable offenses are whatever you can get enough votes on.
Okay, so give us your quick thoughts. Has Obama done enough for the illegal immigrants, quote unquote? And where do you think this argument goes tomorrow come Friday in the Republican freakout?
No, he hasn't, and the reaction will be that he's pretty much dismantled the axis of the planet, and how this is going to just ruin the entire country and the world just by giving them a head start on not fucking them in the ass. So that's basically what I think. Like to me, I take what he says with a grain of salt because his actions have proven to be otherwise.
So here's the question Sean brought up, and I'm going to put it to the panel. So there's a lot of conversation about whether this falls into a gray area in the law. 41, George Bush's dad did something similar here, but in that context, there is the idea that he had a more of a stronger political mandate at the time. One, do you buy into that in this situation? And two, where do you all fall in the idea of, does this put us into a slippery slope for the way the country is run? Sean says yes. So, Tom, what do you say?
I say that our immigration policy is broken in general. It shouldn't cost as much as it does to become immigrated in here. It should be as easy as if you become, like if you pop out of your mother's womb, it should be that easy. We're the home of the free land of the brave. You should be able to. They make immigrants go through, legal immigrants, not refugees, go through so many hoops. We need to term this better. We need to make this easier for people, and it can be done because we screw so many people. Like the Afghanis who helped us do translation, who are not letting in. When is Obama going to take any action on that? You know, there's so many things that we can point out that he's not doing that should be taken. But this is I'm just overall frustrated with this whole issue, and it should totally be reformed. But as long as we have a Republican Congress, as long as we have this mess, it's not going to happen.
Haven, do you have any problems with what Sean was talking about, the idea of this giving too much power to the executive branch?
No, I don't necessarily agree that it will be, that it's, I understand the confusion of whether or not it might be legal, but I don't, I mean, of all the other things that have been illegally done, this is, if it is illegal, it's fucking minuscule, and it's not really doing anything, and we did do an amnesty program for Cubans, and they still have it. And apparently, we have it imploded. So I don't really think that that's going to be like a big, this is going to be something that's completely, going to upheave American culture and society.
So Haven and Sean, I'm sorry, Dan, but Haven and Sean, if we just Mexico declared communist, do you think then that might be a help? Then there wouldn't be a problem with the refugees coming over and all of South America. They're all commies. Then we'll get somewhere with immigration reform?
I don't know. Communism isn't what it once was. Like, the Cuban thing is like a residual effect from us being afraid of the Soviet Union having somebody in our backyard, and like they basically swim over here, so it's really fucked up to send them back. But to get to the...
They don't swim over here. They all came here on fucking boats, and they all came here on fucking airplanes. The majority of them that
Some of them swim, I'm just saying.
Get the fuck out of here. You know who else who swims here? Haitians, but they have completely fine kicking those motherfuckers right the fuck back. They don't even get the fucking touch ground. So...
But my point is to get to the question that Dan brought up about the reason... I'm not generally against like this. Like, I want people to be able to come to this country. Tom brought up a good point about people that like serve our country overseas that will probably be killed and have already had family members killed, helping us in our wars that we don't even let in the country, which is ridiculous. But like, it is an overreach of power. Like, this is something that is typically handled in the legislative branch, and the president did this after an election where his party lost. Like, it is like, let's not make any bones about it. We might like the policy, we might like it in theory, but it is more power being transferred to the executive branch.
Sean, you've been watching way too much Fox News, listening to way too much Rush Limbaugh. Turn it the fuck off. I don't even go down that rabbit hole.
I'm going to push back on that, coming to you from a Canadian left-wing perspective, and try to give you the opposite view of that. I don't necessarily think that's wrong, but what I would argue is it that bad? So what I think is very interesting about this is what this is doing is when Congress goes into gridlock, it's creating, when Obama pushes back on it, it's creating you almost having a situation where you're like in a parliamentary system, which I know that might drive some Americans crazy, but I'm telling you, from the rest of the world's perspective, it's not the worst thing ever. You're kind of in a minority government situation where at the end of the day, the executive has the power, but it forces everybody to get a little bit better. So Obama's been saying for months, put something through Congress. When the Congress doesn't act, the executive then does, which then you would assume forces the congressional branch to actually get off their ass and do something. Could this be positive, Sean?
I hate parliamentary systems. I like our system. It's designed to prevent. The parliamentary system is designed to consistently pass legislation. Our system is designed for debate and slowing down and all the things that Republicans have been doing recently. It's like amazing that they're like the first Congress in like almost a century to figure out how our government actually works. That you're supposed to impede. That's why we have two houses. So I don't like the idea of a parliamentary system.
So you like the fact that you've done that it's a do-nothing Congress?
In general, do nothing is better than take my freedom, even though they still...
But they don't. They're taking your freedom now. That doesn't make any sense. They're taking your freedom now. And it's... The whole purpose of having a House and a Senate and all that is not to impede, but to ensure that everybody has a check and balance. It's not to slow down. It's to make sure things are done correctly and everybody has an opportunity to put their 2 cents in. And it's like,
slowing it down.
If you're really worried about your rights, I'm sorry, but they're already fucking gone. Because the Patriot Act took care of that. So it's like, I'm tired of this do-nothing Congress. I'm tired of the bullshit games that they're playing where they're sitting here and telling us, oh, these people are evil because of this, when both of these motherfuckers are in bed fucking everybody over. And it's like, they're taking their precious time because they can afford to. Because they're not waiting for our checks. They're waiting for some big-ass business to give them their checks. They're too busy giving lap dances to fucking GE and shit to even do anything. So it's like...
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just like, they still pass the bills that are like the most damaging to us. Like they always agree on that stuff. But my point is that even if I agree, and I do agree that we should first of all fast track all those people who are like refugees or already in the legal system, and then fix the legal system so we can put these people through it. But like, I'm just saying that this is like something that's typically handled in the legislative branch that has essentially been partially transferred to the executive branch.
But they refuse to put the bill to the floor.
Right.
That's the thing. They refuse to do it. Boner is ineffective.
So if the Congress doesn't pass a law, then the president just goes ahead and does it anyway. I never learned that.
That's the law. But hold on, that is the law. Like, Congress has given in your history the discretion in this area for the president to act, if you will. What we're kind of arguing about is the gentleman's agreement that never was written down, which was you don't really do it but it's not on paper. So that's why I'm saying, like, you have this because you legally don't have it written down, unlike everything else in America where everything is from 500, years back plus. Like, where does that fall into that for you?
The Constitution delegates the naturalization process to Congress. The president's just supposed to enforce it. Like immigration, all that is a congressional power. It is written down.
In other places it is, but here you have the congressional. He can do this. There's nothing that's against it.
And is he really nationalizing any of these people?
Right. He's not right.
That's doing the thing that you're worried about, the thing that Congress refuses to do. He's not even picking up that ball. What he's doing is saying, hey, you guys sit tight. Still, work for our companies cheaply. Don't worry about, putting in Social Security that you'll never fucking get the benefit from. Stay here while I sit here and dawdle with these assholes who are just using you as a political pawn. So it's like,
the real question is, can this be broadened out to other areas? Like once we leave the immigration aspect, what Sean's concerned about, and many people are concerned about, is do you think this can be applied in other places? A lot of law people who are taking a look at this in law are saying no. It's literally just this slice. But that is going to be the interesting conversation moving forward. I want to talk a little bit quickly about all the Republican talking points that we're going to hear in the next 48 hours over the weekend and on Meet the Press, et cetera, et cetera. This, of course, the only show we'll be talking about that will drop F-bombs as we do it. So, stay tuned for that. But the question I have for you is self-deportation, the big Mitt Romney gaffe of 2012, which is now going to be a very, popular talking point, the idea that, does anyone on this panel buy into the idea that you're supposed to be afraid that it's illegal if you're in this country and you're actually illegal, because it keeps people from coming to the country and it makes people go back being afraid to get caught? Anyone buy into that line of thinking that we're going to hear so much about in the next 2 days?
If I bought into that line of thinking, I'd be pro-death penalty.
Okay.
I don't. That line of thinking is nonsense. People come for economic reasons. That's the only thing that regulates immigration in this country, not any law or fence or fear.
And if he genuinely felt that, then it wouldn't just be Mexicans that he would be worried about crossing the border. It'd be other immigrants that he might feel adds more to our economy. We're not turning away Asian immigrants who have PhDs in the STEM fields that we need. We're never turning those guys away. So it's like, how worried are you about putting the fear into immigrants' hearts about coming here, really?
I gotta correct that. We do let Asians and Indian people come here, get PhDs, and then we send them home because our immigration system makes no sense. Like, we do turn people away. It's dumb. Like, we shouldn't do that.
So around our internet table, final thoughts on the immigration situation that we've got ourselves into tonight after Barack Obama's speech, starting with Tom. What are your final thoughts on this?
I just think it's the road to impeachment, and I'll see you there at about April.
Haven, what are your thoughts?
I think that this is more sweet nothings that are getting whispered in the ear of the right group of people, because, the Republicans are going to shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to the Latino vote, and I'm pretty sure Obama's trying to let them know that, hey, I'm still your boyfriend. Don't worry, I still love you. But anything beyond the words is not going to be happening.
And finally, our contrarian libertarian, Sean, what are your thoughts on this?
Look, Hispanics didn't show up to vote this go around. They didn't vote for Democrats when the ones who did show up didn't vote for Democrats in the percentages that Obama got in past elections. This is a move to kind of placate them for not doing anything on immigration. I don't mind the policy in theory. I just wish that laws were written by the legislative branch.
Sounds good. The final thought I have on this is, I don't know how people are supposed to get involved in the process if our major networks won't actually carry the speech. You had the networks take a big giant pass on this speech tonight, leaving it to the completely fair and balanced cable news networks to cover. So in an age of the internet, do we want to do a quick go around on that? Does anybody have a problem with that? Because I do. Haven?
I won't say that I have a problem with it. I'll say that I'm not surprised. I'm kind of jaded by how the news system is run here. They don't give a shit either way, and even if they did, it's not like a lot of the American citizens are paying attention to it. We kind of don't want, I guess we're kind of anti-primary source in that way, where we'd much rather let Bill O'Reilly or Rachel Maddow tell us what he did say.
Or TYT Community.
Or TYT Community, instead of going to the actual horse and listening to it from his mouth. And so it's like, it's more of the same, unfortunately. But that, it opens up a bigger problem than just them looking for sweeps.
I'm going to be a dick and say there's nothing more annoying to me than when I DVR a show and the president breaks in, so good job on the networks.
All right, Tom, finally, my only hope that somebody else could be upset about this.
I'm actually not, because here's why. No, here's why. Because, I mean, who's going to pass up a chance to watch The Big Bang Theory? They're lazy Americans. They're stupid Americans. Gruber was right. So, back to Big Bang, screw the president, move on.
The more you know.